Frontiers Media, and this year's theme is Taking Humanity Forward. So, today we all are present here to celebrate the love for literature and discuss the pivotal subject matters which are prevailing in our society and establish engaging conversation with professionals and your favorite authors as well. So, today's session theme is lifestyle and wellness. And under the session theme, we have a topic, a creative palette, a passionate journey. And for this lovely conversation today, we have very special guest, Maria Goretti. Welcome, ma'am, and we're immensely glad to have you on board today for PVLF 2023. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Okay, thank you. So, Maria Goretti is an economics graduate who studied fashion design. She's worked as dancer, and because of her talent, was snapped up for a number of advertisements. She has modeled for Coca-Cola, Ariel, Close Up, and Volkswagen, Beetle, to name a few. She spent 5.5 years as VJ for NTV, interviewing, touring with musicians from across the world. She hosted the 2000 MTV Video Music Awards for India from Radio City Music Hall in New York. Maria was an anchor and a presenter for the ICC Champions Trophy in Sri Lanka in 2002 and a 2003 Cricket World Cup in South Africa. She has also acted in lots of movies. She did the weekly news and entertainment shows for Times Now and also anchored food shows for NDTV, but happily gave them up when she had kids. She threw them when she fell in love with cooking and food, and in 2011, Maria cleared with distinction and the Cordon Bleu certificate course in food and baking at the Tant Mary School of Cookery, UK, run by the Gordon Ramsay. In 2017, she penned her debut book, My Kitchen to Yours, Food, Love and Other Ingredients. And I hope that I have justice with your the introduction, right?
It's too much. You could have cut it down.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. So, it's been a years that you have written your first debut book, and today we'll be talking about your The Kitchen to Yours, your book today. And so, this session is goes to your food journey and your journey as a celebrity chef. So, my first question to you: what inspired your inclination towards writing? And please also tell us about your book, From My Kitchens to Yours: Food, Love, and Other Ingredients.
So I think when I started cooking, I started it mostly as an experiment because I really did not know how to cook. And while I was doing this experiment, a friend of mine who is an author actually, her name is Jaya, she told me, she said, why don't you blog about this? But I didn't know what blogging was. So she kind of explained to me how I should set up an account. And then what I started doing was I started putting my experiments onto this blog. And as I kept adding to it, I realized that I really do enjoy writing. And so I continued blogging for quite some time actually. And it led to me getting an offer to write a book. And which is a very difficult process because blogging is one thing because you're just talking about your experiments in the kitchen, what you did, how you are doing it, probably when you go wrong. But when you write a book, it's very precise because there are people who can cook and who can't cook who will pick your book up. And since I had no one to really help me with my daily experiments, it took me very long to write this book. But I love the process. It's a very, very interesting process. It's a very satisfying process. And it led me to wonderful places. So I really enjoyed doing this book. And it is filled with recipes that I know, I have learned, and I have tasted when I've traveled. It has recipes that I learned from friends that I like. So it's very interesting. In fact, every time I have to cook, I too go back to this because it's all done very correctly in this book. So even I refer back to my book for certain recipes that I still use.
So you mentioned that you have taken a lot of time to pen down this book. So how long did it take to complete this book?
It took me 2.5 years
Okay.
because first I had to decide how the book should go. Then I
Okay.
had to decide on the recipes. And then you decide on the concept before you decide on the recipe. So you decide on the concept. Then halfway down, I decided, no, I'm changing this concept. So I'll start again. Then finally, when I decided what the concept of the book is, then I jotted down like a whole lot of recipes,
Okay.
that I may or may not need. And then I started cooking them. Then I started discarding what I did not like. Then the ones that I liked, I needed to do them 2 or 3 times so that, I can make sense of what I'm doing.
Okay.
So yeah, it's and when you're the only person doing it, it becomes very difficult. But at the end of it all, it was a lot of hard work. But like I said, it was a very satisfying experience because I know that I put in my all and I put in a lot of hard work to do this book. And yes, there are mistakes in this book still, And I remember there was one point when the book had gone to print. I mean, they had made a dummy book and they'd given it to me. They said, "Mani, go through it." So one evening, my son decided that he wants to make a soup from there.
Hmm.
And while I was cooking, I realized that the amount of liquid that I was adding to it was much less than what was needed. Then I had to go through the whole book again and figure where I've made mistakes, and it was crazy. But yeah, it is what it is, and it was a good experience. It was a great learning experience, and I do love the recipes in this book.
And yes, people learn from experience. And congratulations on your book. And because people are still loving it. Yeah. So my next question, you have mentioned you there were some recipes that you have to think it over. What should I add or not? So I would like to know what kind of recipes have you included in your book. So is it just a sweet dish or some different cuisine? So please share.
So, when I was doing this book, the first draft of this book actually was seasonal food. So, what is the seasonal food that you get, in the market? When I did that whole thing, I realized that today you get everything in the market most of the year. There are very few things that go up and down, you know, but mostly you get most of the vegetables in the market. So I said, okay, this is not working like a seasonal book. So then I decided that I'm going to put recipes in that I really enjoy, and I'm going to dedicate each month to something special. So, say January is like it's not a diet, but it's a clean your system kind of start the year on a very healthy note. February is basically an aphrodisiac menu because it has got Valentine's Day in it. March is dedicated to my roots, which is East Indian, and so I have an East Indian menu, and so on and so forth. And it has recipes in it that include a soup, a salad, a main course, which is veg and non veg, a starter, and a dessert. And it has lots and lots of vegetarian recipes in this book. So, yeah, it's a mix of different cuisines. It's a mix of various techniques that you would have to follow to do certain dishes. But all in all, I think what I've tried to do with this book is keep it very simple so it can be followed and people use it.
That is quite amazing. Okay. So, how do you describe your journey from being a VJ and a popular TV star to one of the finest celebrity chefs in India?
I would say it was a very interesting journey. It is a very interesting journey because from somebody who really never cooked at all, um, to me going to school twice. I went to Tante Marie in 2011. I went to Le Cordon Bleu, Paris and London in 2018. So for me, I realized that when I love something, I need to know everything about it. I want to know everything, or let's say I want to know as much as possible, and I want to do it in the right way. So I kind of go after it, and I kind of get into the nitty gritties and get my hands dirty and So it's been a very exciting journey because it's a very adventurous journey to start learning something completely new. And I loved that process. So I started studying food in 2010. So I spent 1 year in Bombay learning baking in Sophia Polytech under Sashi ma'am, and she's a great teacher. And I would say my basics, I learned all my basics from her. Then from there, I went off to Chantimani to London, which is a culinary school where I did cuisine, boulangerie, which is bread. I did bakery, which is your tea cakes and your buns and your, tiny little things. So that was a very intensive course, which used to start every day at 8 o'clock in the morning, finish at 5 o'clock in the evening. So it was quite something. And I did this for quite some time. Then I kind of came back and I didn't know what to do. I thought I'll open a cafe one day, and I had all these little dreams in my head. But then I decided that I need to go back and study some more. So I went back in 2018. I went back to Le Cordon Bleu to do pastry, and I finished doing my diploma. So I have two diplomas basically from two different places. But I realized when I finished my pastry diploma that I actually love cuisine. So so I continue doing what I'm doing, and so today I also realized that probably I would run a cafe if I had a very good partner or somebody with me, to run the cafe, because otherwise it is a lot of hard work and I don't want to do it solo. So I know that in my head that a cafe is a lot of hard work. It's a lot of, besides just hard work, it's a lot of money, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort. And I think I'm a very creative person, and the business part of it, I'm not so good at. So I realized I actually last this year I actually put down money to open a cafe, and the more I was getting immersed in it, the more I was realizing that this is something I don't want to do alone. I want to do it with somebody who knows how to run the business, so I can just be the creative head and put my heart and soul into the baking, into the cooking, into all that I love, and I have somebody who I trust who can run the business for me. But I hope that happens when it has to happen. But till then, I'm very happy doing what I am doing.
And we hope that you will gonna find that person and you will gonna yeah, fulfill your dream cafe. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
So your entire world revolves around food and cooking. So how do you manage to stay fresh?
Oh, number one, I think it is good genes. You know, number one, it's that I have to give credit to my parents for the great genes that I have. Number two is that I used to run. Okay, so when you run, you burn a lot of fuel, and I'm somebody who actually, um, I would say 70% of the time I eat very healthy. I love vegetables. I love fruits. I like eating healthy. It's not that I enjoy eating fat food. I don't. But it is something I may do once in a while. But otherwise, I think I eat pretty healthy. Though I absolutely adore sweets and chocolates and all these kind of things. But I do exercise and I eat clean as much as I can. So that when I'm cooking, I can, as a chef, you're always constantly tasting food. But if you balance it out with, healthy food, food which is good for you, it's manageable.
Absolutely agree with you. So, we Indians, wherever we go, we carry our roots with us. So, when you was roaming around across the world and getting introduced with the English food. So have you forgotten your Indian food, or you just carry on with your legacy of Indian food?
So when I travel, I love eating the local food that in the places that I am, and I've always enjoyed that. Um, but I've also realized that about 10 days into my holiday, I need to find a Sarvana Bhavan wherever I am in the world and go and have sambar dosa, chutney. And today, let me tell you, today Indian food is all over the world. And if you don't find an Indian food restaurant, I think it's very, very improbable to not do that today because it's everywhere and it's a loved cuisine. But I must tell you that when I was studying in Paris, I had a friend of mine called Hema who was a vegetarian. And she one day, we were all missing Indian food. And she said, come on, let's go and have Ethiopian food. And we were like, what? No, let's go and try and find Indian food. And she said, no, just come. I found this place and we should all go there. And I tasted Ethiopian food for the first time in 2018. And it is so close to the Indian palate, but yet it's different. So they have this really big thali, okay, and the base of this thali is a big roti called injera, and on top of it you get, it's like a thali but an open thali, and you get everything. You get your vegetables, you get your dal. If you want chicken or mutton or fish, whatever you want, you get it all onto this thali of yours. And though it looks exactly like how our Indian food looks. It's very different in flavor because it's a different cuisine altogether. But yet, it is full of flavor and it's so tasty. So it is one cuisine that, besides Indian food, like if I miss Indian food, what is the next food that could satisfy my soul? I would say it is Ethiopian food.
So, did you always enjoy cooking, or was it something you acquired during your time as VJ? And maybe some another reason you have most of you covered your part that how did you across with your journey of being a writer and as a food, but still, could you share with us in a detailed manner? So, exactly how did acquire the love for cooking? Actually.
So, when I was a VJ, I used to travel a lot. I used to travel every 2 days. I was in another city. I was probably every month we went to a different country to do work. So the most fun part about that was finding new cuisines and eating out. So I ate out a lot, and I love food. So when my crew traveled with me, we used to always be asking everyone where should we go. We used to go to the best places.
Okay.
And that time, eat the local food. So I've always loved food, but I never knew how to cook. Cooking came, I think, after I had my kids. After I gave birth to my son, when he was about 2.5 years old, is when I actually had to start cooking because then, kids start eating normal food at that time, a little bit. So I used to keep asking my mom, okay, how do you make this? How do you make that? What do you do? Blah, 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 blah. And very slowly, because of my two kids, I got into learning how to cook. I would make, like, randomly, I would make stuff sometimes, but I was never somebody who actually cooked or actually enjoyed cooking. I would fry an egg or sometimes make one baked chicken, but very little. But I think once I had both my kids and I realized that, okay, I need to give them real food, is when I got a little deeper into it. And then I realized I really loved it. I really loved learning food and I enjoyed food. I always enjoyed food. Now I knew I could make the food that I wanted. And rather, I could not make the food that I really wanted at some point. But that's when I went to school, and then I learned it. And then now the thing is that if you give me any recipe, because I know my basics, I'm not somebody who so there are a lot of techniques when you go to do your chef course. besides learning a recipe, you learn techniques. And now that is really important. If I give you a recipe, anyone can cook. But the technique that is involved is what is very important. Whether you're making a bread, whether you're making a cake, whether you're making a bake, whether whatever you're doing, whether you're stewing, whether you're frying, there is a technique to everything, and that is what you learn in a culinary school, in a baking school. And that skill is something you always carry into everything that you do. And I think I enjoy that. I enjoy learning.
And you're still enjoying it. Okay. So, would you call yourself as a baking person or a full meal complete person? Like, because you just shared that you like cuisine more.
So I love baking more. I have to tell you that very honestly. I love baking. So I mostly end up doing dishes which require a little sauteing, something, something. Then you put it together, and then you put it into the bake, and you put it into the oven. So somehow I enjoy that. It comes easily to me, you know. So I would say, yeah, I'm more of a baking person.
Baking person. Okay. Yeah. So, today you are going everyone's hearts on social media with the scrumptious diseases. So, how has social media altered your career to reach more people and share your recipes?
So I'm not very, very active on social media, though professionally I should be. But I have still not gotten to having a shoot kitchen or having a team that shoots with me or any of that. What I do on social media is what is very natural. That comes to me very naturally. I I think I am way behind in doing stuff. Like I see so many wonderful chefs today who are putting out recipes every day, or I see people who are putting out beauty tips and fashion tips and all these kind of things. I think I'm a more organic person, and I feel that what I put up is, if I do something, then I talk about it. But if I don't have anything to talk about, then I stay silent. So I think that is more me. But sometimes I feel that, yes, I wish I had a team in place so that I could put out more recipes. So I cooked a lot during the lockdown, but that's because I was cooking a lot during the lockdown on an everyday basis. So I used to just put a camera right there while I was cooking and shoot and put it out there, So that was something that I did a lot. But right now, I think it's more organic. What I'm doing is what I put on social media, and that's about it.
So, are you planning to shoot more food videos in future?
I've not decided, but I think it would be nice if I could get a team together who would be able to put this together for me, and I just land up and cook. It's too much hard work to do it on your own.
Fine, fine. So, are there any other prospects that you have been working on, or will we ever gonna see another book of yours on food? So, yeah, in future, in the near future.
Okay, so I have a book that should release somewhere this year. It is a book on poetry,
Okay.
and there is a lot of love poetry that I've written in that book. It should be released. I don't know. It's gone into print, so I'm waiting for that. But yes, I do plan to do another food book, definitely. But the only thing is, this time around, I want to work with a team of people who, it's always nicer when you have a team of people to get the best, out. So yeah, I'm looking at that, and I'm planning that. But I think till my poetry book comes out, that would be a bit on hold.
Oh, okay. So your poetry book is something very different from your previous experience. So the poetry is your forte, or maybe you just jotted down some of the feelings and emotion in a book.
So I would say that poetry is something that comes to you at a certain time, you know, and you're able to write it. All the poetry that I've written has been, I've been sitting somewhere, I've been influenced, I watched probably a beautiful film, or I have gone for a beautiful hike, or uh, sometimes what somebody has said, or I've heard something from someone, and it triggers an emotion in you, and sometimes it comes out in words. So sometimes I could be sitting on a flight and I could think of something, and I'll just keep jotting it down. And in fact, my poetry book I wrote on my iPhone. Even my past cookery book I wrote on my iPhone.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I did both of this. It was just, and then of course, for my poetry book, there was a lot of back and forth that went on it, because I think all of us are evolving human beings. So sometimes what I read, I'm like, oh my god, I don't. What is this? I need to change it. So I've changed it. So there's a lot of shift that has happened in what I've written there. But finally, my finally my editor was so fed up with me and was like, "Listen, we don't want you to edit anymore. Just stop editing. Just let the book go to print." But you always feel as a author, as a writer, as somebody who's written poetry, as somebody who does recipes, you always feel that, oh my God, this is not good enough, and oh, I can improve on it, and I can do better, and I can do better, and you just keep editing, and then after some time I started reading it and I'm like, oh my god, this is terrible. So I used to keep promising, no, 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 I have to do it again. And they were like, no, you don't have to do it again. Just relax, let it go. So I've let it go.
So you let it go. Right. So you are an author and you have edited your poems as well by yourself. Nice. Nice.
Pardon me?
I was saying that you have also edited your poems by yourself.
Yes.
Need anyone? Yeah.
No, initially for the first draft, uh, I had a very nice editor called Ishita Moitra, and she edited the first full draft. But after she edited it, I edited it some more. Then I edited it some more. Then I added some more poetries. I took some more poetries out, and I kept doing this up, down till it all got done. Now it is very different from her first edit.
That's
I think she will be in shock.
definitely. So, what message would you like to give to aspiring authors as well as chefs?
So, if you're an aspiring chef, I just want to tell you that it's very important for you to learn the skill. Acquiring a recipe and doing somebody's recipe is one thing, but there's always a skill involved. And if you can learn the nuances of cooking, then any recipe, you'll be able to do any recipe. As for an author, I really don't know what advice to give anyone, because I feel as an author, as a writer, I'm forever searching, for ways to keep my writing true to me, to keep my writing honest, and to have a flow to it.
Right.
So it is something that you kind of learn on your own.
Hmm.
I know that there are writing, what do you call it, courses and everything,
Right.
and I'm sure you learn the basics in that. But I feel in the long run, it is your head, your mind, your heart, your soul, your spirit that actually needs to come through. So be yourself.
Absolutely agree with you. So thank you, Maria ma'am, and Frontlist team and PVLF team would like to thank you for joining us today, sharing about your work and love for work for the food and your recipes. So thank you so much and have a good day.
Thank you for having me.